It is with profound sorrow that we recount the unexpected demise of Sorelle Emmanuella Kamga, who tragically passed away at her own wedding reception in Douala, Cameroon. Her long-awaited union with the love of her life concluded in an unimaginable catastrophe, transforming a day of jubilation into one of collective grief. The reception hall throbbed with music as Sorelle, resplendent in her white gown, danced with unrestrained joy. The date, October 24, 2024, was meant to be a landmark of celebration in Douala, Cameroon. Guests enthusiastically captured the radiant bride's dance with her bridesmaids on their phones, her new husband observing with a beaming smile. In a traditional expression of blessing and prosperity, money cascaded around them. However, in a fleeting instant, the entire atmosphere shifted. Mid-dance, Sorelle's bright smile wavered. A fleeting moment of confusion crossed her face as her eyes slightly widened. Without warning, she collapsed to the floor, her wedding dress billowing around her like a cloud. The music continued for several agonizing seconds before anyone noticed, the cheerful melody becoming a haunting accompaniment to the unfolding disaster. Laughter gave way to screams as the dance floor cleared, guests rushing towards the fallen bride. Her husband pushed through the crowd, collapsing to his knees beside her, crying out, "Sorelle," and grasping her hand. Bridesmaids stood paralyzed in shock, their matching dresses forming a sorrowful circle around their friend. Someone frantically called for a doctor, while another began CPR. The phones that had moments before recorded joyous celebration now documented escalating desperation. In those chaotic moments, as emergency medical help was summoned, no one could fathom that this wedding day would conclude without a bride. Sorelle Emmanuella Kamga had devoted years to anticipating this day. At 32, she had discovered her soulmate, a love story that had triumphed over long distances, familial expectations, and demanding career challenges. Friends remembered her as vibrant and resolute, a woman who approached life with steadfast optimism and an infectious laugh. That morning, she had been the epitome of happiness, with photographs capturing her preparing with close friends, her eyes shining with anticipation. The ceremony itself was exquisite, vows exchanged under the warm Cameroonian sun as relatives shed tears of joy. Sorelle had seemingly glided down the aisle, her face radiant with the promise of the future. The reception commenced as a joyous affirmation of all her aspirations. Surrounded by 200 guests, Sorelle and her new husband shared their inaugural dance, cut their wedding cake, and expressed gratitude to everyone for sharing in their momentous day. No one could have foreseen the devastating turn of events that was about to unfold. Have you ever contemplated the swiftness with which life can be altered? How a moment of pure bliss can, without warning, morph into profound sorrow. This is precisely what befell Sorelle and all those who cherished her on what should have been the most joyous day of her existence. What could have caused a seemingly healthy young bride to collapse abruptly during her wedding reception? Was there any underlying condition that might have foreshadowed this tragic outcome? As we delve deeper into Sorelle's story, we will explore not only the events themselves but also the crucial lessons we can glean from this tragedy to safeguard ourselves and our dear ones. If you have ever attended a wedding or meticulously planned your own, this narrative will resonate deeply with you. It compels us to confront the inherent fragility of life and the unforeseen nature of death. Join us as we reconstruct the events of that fateful October day in Douala, a day that began with the chime of wedding bells and ended with lingering questions that continue to haunt a community and a family desperately seeking answers. Sorelle Emmanuella Kamga spent her formative years in Douala, Cameroon's bustling economic capital situated on the coast. Born in the early 1990s into a middle-class family, she was renowned for her academic brilliance and warm disposition. After graduating with honors, Sorelle embarked on a promising career in banking, swiftly ascending the ranks at one of Douala's esteemed financial institutions. It was at a friend's birthday celebration in 2019 that Sorelle first encountered Emmanuel, a software engineer who had recently returned to Cameroon after pursuing studies abroad. Friends vividly recall their eyes meeting across the room and, despite the pulsating music and throng of people, finding themselves engrossed in conversation for hours. Their connection was immediate and profound, as they both shared ambitious career aspirations, strong family values, and a shared vision of building a life together in their homeland. Their courtship flourished despite inherent challenges. Emmanuel's work frequently necessitated travel to neighboring countries for weeks at a time, while Sorelle's demanding position at the bank often meant late nights and weekend shifts. Yet, they persevered, nurturing their relationship through daily video calls, surprise visits, and unwavering support for each other's dreams. Emmanuel proposed during a family gathering in 2021, dropping to one knee before both their assembled families. Sorelle's joyful acceptance was captured in photographs that would later grace their wedding, showing her hands covering her mouth in surprise, tears streaming down her face as Emmanuel placed the ring on her finger. Their engagement announcement on social media garnered hundreds of congratulatory messages from friends and colleagues who had witnessed their love story unfold. The journey from engagement to marriage was not without its complexities for Sorelle and Emmanuel. Their initial wedding date in 2022 was postponed when Emmanuel received a career-advancing opportunity requiring extensive travel throughout West Africa. Subsequently, family obligations, financial considerations, and the intricate logistics of planning a traditional Cameroonian celebration that would honor both families' expectations further delayed their plans. During these years of waiting, Sorelle meticulously maintained a wedding journal, detailing her vision for their special day. She gathered fabric swatches, venue brochures, and recipe ideas for the elaborate feast. Friends marveled at her remarkable patience, noting that she never pressured Emmanuel but steadfastly prepared for the opportune moment. By early 2024, the stars finally aligned. Emmanuel had firmly established himself professionally, they had amassed sufficient savings for the celebration they envisioned, and both families had agreed on the traditional customs to be observed. They set their wedding date for October 24th, allowing themselves 9 months to meticulously plan the perfect wedding. Those months were brimming with happiness and anticipation. Sorelle personally selected her bridesmaids, 6 childhood friends and cousins who provided unwavering support through every dress fitting and tasting. Emmanuel, unlike most grooms, actively participated in the planning, determined to make everything perfect for the woman who had waited so patiently to become his wife. In Cameroon, weddings transcend mere unions between two individuals. They are celebrations that intrinsically link families and communities. Traditional Cameroonian weddings often encompass multiple ceremonies spanning several days, seamlessly blending ancestral customs with contemporary festivities. For Sorelle and Emmanuel, upholding these traditions was paramount. Their celebration commenced with the knock-door ceremony, where Emmanuel's family formally requested Sorelle's hand in marriage, presenting gifts and engaging in light-hearted negotiations with her family. This was followed by the civil ceremony at the municipal office, a religious blessing at their local church, and finally, the elaborate reception that united over 200 guests. The reception itself beautifully showcased Cameroon's rich cultural heritage. Vibrant Ankara fabrics adorned the venue, traditional drums accompanied modern music, and the menu featured both local delicacies and international cuisine. Money spraying, the custom of showering the couple with cash as they dance, symbolized wishes for prosperity and abundance in their new life together, a joyful tradition that would tragically mark Sorelle's final moments. Dawn broke over Douala on October 24th with an unusual clarity, as if nature itself endorsed the union about to take place. Sorelle awoke in her family home, surrounded by female relatives who had spent the night singing traditional songs and imparting marriage advice. By 7 a.m., her makeup artist and hairstylist arrived, transforming the already beautiful bride into a vision of elegance. The ceremony was scheduled for 11 a.m. at St. Peter's Cathedral, a colonial-era church nestled in downtown Douala. Guests began arriving an hour early, filling the wooden pews with colorful attire and excited whispers. Emmanuel waited at the altar, handsome in his tailored black suit, nervously adjusting his cuffs as the string quartet played softly in the background. When Sorelle appeared at the church entrance on her father's arm, a collective gasp rippled through the congregation. Her gown, a masterpiece of ivory lace with delicate beading, caught the light streaming through the stained glass windows. The ceremony unfolded with touching moments, their personally written vows that brought tears to many eyes, the gentle trembling of Emmanuel's hands as he placed the ring on Sorelle's finger, and the choir's powerful rendition of "How Great Thou Art" that seemed to make the very walls vibrate. After the final blessing, the newlyweds virtually danced down the aisle, their faces illuminated with joy. Outside, they released white doves, Sorelle's special request, symbolizing their hopes and dreams taking flight. Photographers captured these moments against the backdrop of cheering friends and family, images that would later become immeasurably precious. The reception venue, an elegant hotel ballroom boasting views of the Woori River, had been transformed into a magical wonderland of white and gold. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm, inviting glow over tables adorned with towering floral arrangements. A majestic 6-tier wedding cake, decorated with sugar flowers that perfectly matched Sorelle's bouquet, stood proudly near the dance floor. As guests arrived from the ceremony, they were greeted with flutes of champagne and the melodious sounds of a local band playing a blend of Cameroonian and international hits. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement and celebration. Children playfully darted between tables, elderly relatives nodded approvingly at the elegant surroundings, and friends gathered in animated clusters, exchanging stories of the couple. Sorelle and Emmanuel made their grand entrance to thunderous applause, performing a choreographed dance that seamlessly blended traditional Cameroonian moves with contemporary steps. Their first dance as husband and wife, to Ed Sheeran's Perfect, left few dry eyes in the room. Emmanuel held Sorelle as if she were made of precious glass, whispering endearments in her ear and eliciting laughter throughout the song. The feast that followed was sumptuous, featuring traditional jollof rice, ndol with prawns, roast fish, and various European dishes to honor Emmanuel's time abroad. Toasts celebrated the couple's journey, with Sorelle's father moving many to tears with his heartfelt words about witnessing his daughter find true love. As the evening progressed, the formal portion of the reception gave way to uninhibited celebration. The dance floor filled with guests of all ages, swaying to the rhythms of popular Afrobeats and Makassa music. Sorelle had changed into her second outfit, a stunning, form-fitting dress crafted from traditional Cameroonian fabric, designed to allow her greater freedom of movement for dancing. Around 9:30 p.m., the DJ announced the Money Spray Dance, a highlight of the celebration where guests shower the couple with cash as a blessing. Sorelle's bridesmaids joined her on the dance floor, forming a protective circle around the bride. Emmanuel stood nearby, beaming with pride as his wife moved gracefully to the music. Guests pressed forward, cameras raised to capture the joyful moment. Sorelle was radiant, her face glowing with happiness as she twirled and swayed. The music pulsed louder, the crowd's energy intensified, and Sorelle danced with increasing vigor. No one observed her briefly touching her chest, or the momentary flicker of discomfort that crossed her face seconds before the unimaginable occurred. What subtle signs might have been overlooked in those critical final moments before tragedy struck? Was there any aspect of Sorelle's medical history that could have foretold this devastating turn of events? Could more immediate medical intervention have ultimately saved her life? As we continue to delve into this heart-wrenching narrative, we invite your reflections. Have you ever witnessed or personally experienced a medical emergency during an event meant for joy? What precautions do you believe should be standard practice at significant celebrations, such as weddings? Please share your insights in the comments section below. Your contributions might empower others to recognize warning signs or implement preventive measures that could potentially save lives in comparable situations. At precisely 9:37 p.m., the trajectory of joy abruptly veered off course. Sorelle occupied the center of the dance floor, her bridesmaids forming a protective perimeter as guests approached to spray money in celebration. The DJ had just transitioned to Caler la Petite, a popular track by Cameroonian artist Franco, and the room's energy had reached its zenith. Sorelle executed a particularly energetic spin, her custom-made dress swirling around her. As she completed the turn, something in her expression shifted. Those in close proximity would later recall a bewildered look crossing her face. She raised her hand slightly toward her chest, her movements suddenly losing their coordination. For a brief 3 or 4 seconds, she continued to dance, though her steps lacked their former precision. Then, without warning, Sorelle's knees buckled. She did not stumble or attempt to brace herself, her body simply gave way, collapsing to the floor with a suddenness that did not immediately register as an emergency to those observing. Her head struck the dance floor with a sound lost amidst the music, her body lying motionless among the scattered bills that had been thrown in celebration just moments before. For several heartbeats, the scene persisted as if nothing untoward had happened. The music played on, guests at the back continued dancing, oblivious to the unfolding tragedy. One bridesmaid briefly chuckled, assuming Sorelle had merely tripped or was being playful. But the bride did not rise. She remained utterly motionless. Her eyes remained open, fixed on the ceiling, her chest unmoving. Emmanuel, who had been watching proudly from the sidelines, sensed something was amiss before most others. He pushed through the circle of bridesmaids, dropping to his knees beside his wife of mere hours. "Sorelle?" he called, gently touching her shoulder. Then louder, his voice imbued with rising panic, "Sorelle!" His hand moved to her face, gently patting her cheek, striving to elicit a response that simply would not come. The chilling realization that something was gravely wrong permeated the reception like a rapidly spreading wave. The DJ, noticing the commotion, abruptly cut the music, plunging the ballroom into a silence broken only by confused murmurs and Emmanuel's increasingly desperate pleas to his wife. "Someone help! We need a doctor!" he shouted, his voice cracking with fear. Guests pressed forward, forming a suffocating circle around the fallen bride. A woman in a blue dress pushed through the crowd, kneeling beside Sorelle. "I'm a nurse," she announced, immediately checking for a pulse at Sorelle's neck. Finding none, she began chest compressions, her formal attire impeding her movements as she worked to revive the bride. "Call an ambulance," someone shouted, and multiple phones instantly appeared. Sorelle's father collapsed into a chair, supported by relatives, his face a mask of disbelief. Her mother pushed through the crowd with primal force, wailing as she saw her daughter on the floor. Two male guests had to gently restrain her from throwing herself onto Sorelle's body. The hotel staff responded with remarkable swiftness, bringing a first aid kit and attempting to create space around Sorelle. One quick-thinking server sprinted to the hotel lobby where an automated external defibrillator, AED, was mounted on the wall. Within minutes, it was being applied to Sorelle's chest, her beautiful dress cut open with scissors to allow the pads to make contact with her skin. Throughout these frantic efforts, Emmanuel remained steadfastly by his wife's side, holding her hand and imploring her to awaken. His new wedding ring caught the light as he stroked her face, tears falling onto the dress she had so meticulously chosen for their special day. The ambulance arrived 12 minutes after Sorelle's collapse, though to those present, it felt like an eternity. Paramedics moved with practiced efficiency, taking over CPR from the exhausted nurse and connecting Sorelle to portable monitoring equipment. Their expressions remained professionally neutral, but their urgent actions betrayed the gravity of the situation. After 20 minutes of continuous resuscitation efforts, both at the scene and in the ambulance, the lead paramedic exchanged a meaningful look with his colleague. He checked Sorelle's pupils with a penlight, placed his stethoscope on different points of her chest, and finally stepped back with a slight shake of his head. The time of death was officially recorded as 10:17 p.m., less than 9 hours after Sorelle had joyfully pronounced, "I do." The news of her passing permeated the reception in the most cruel manner. Emmanuel returned alone, supported by his brother, his suit jacket absent and his shirt stained with his wife's lipstick from when he had held her. He did not need to utter a single word. His devastated expression conveyed everything to the assembled guests. A collective sound, a combination of gasp and moan, filled the ballroom. Sorelle's father, a man known for his composure, completely broke down, collapsing to his knees on the very dance floor where his daughter had fallen. Her mother had to be sedated by a doctor who happened to be among the guests. The bridesmaids huddled together in shock, their matching dresses now a painful reminder of the celebration that had devolved into tragedy. The hotel manager, his face ashen, sensitively requested guests to depart. Some left in tears, others lingered in disbelief, and a few remained to comfort the grieving family. By midnight, the venue, meticulously prepared for a night of celebration, stood almost empty, the elaborate decorations now appearing as a cruel mockery. In the days following Sorelle's death, Medical professionals not directly involved in her case offered various potential explanations for how a seemingly healthy young woman could collapse and die so suddenly. Dr. Mbarga, a cardiologist at Douala General Hospital, suggested that sudden cardiac arrest was the most probable cause, particularly given the circumstances of physical exertion and intense emotion. Several cardiac conditions can remain completely asymptomatic until triggered by stress or exertion, Dr. Mbarga explained to local media. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, for instance, is a thickening of the heart muscle that can obstruct blood flow and cause sudden death, especially during physical activity. It's particularly dangerous because people can carry this condition for years without any symptoms. Other medical experts pointed to conditions such as long QT syndrome, a disorder of the heart's electrical activity that can lead to sudden arrhythmias. Congenital heart defects, undiagnosed heart valve problems, and even specific genetic mutations affecting heart rhythm were also cited as potential causes. The confluence of dancing, excitement, and possibly dehydration could have created the perfect storm for triggering a fatal cardiac event. Some physicians noted that young women occasionally dismiss warning signs like occasional chest pain, shortness of breath, or unusual fatigue, attributing them to stress or overexertion rather than seeking medical attention. Whether Sorelle had experienced any such symptoms prior to her wedding day remained unknown to the public. The absence of an immediate autopsy report fueled speculation about other possible causes, including pulmonary embolism, a blood clot that travels to the lungs, or even an acute allergic reaction to something consumed at the reception. Without official medical confirmation, these theories remained precisely that, theories. As news of Sorelle's tragic death circulated throughout Cameroon, cultural and superstitious explanations emerged alongside medical theories. In some communities, sudden deaths during significant life events are sometimes attributed to mystical forces or curses driven by jealousy. Whispers circulated about potential spiritual attacks, motivated by envy of the couple's happiness. Some speculated that a jealous ex-lover might have employed traditional magic to prevent the marriage from being consummated. Others pointed to potential family disputes or unresolved ancestral issues that manifested in this tragic way. Social media amplified these supernatural theories, with some users claiming that certain family members had appeared uncomfortable during the ceremony, suggesting they knew something ominous was about to occur. Videos of the wedding were meticulously analyzed frame by amateur sleuths searching for signs of malevolent intent. Religious leaders in the community urged restraint and compassion rather than speculation. Pastor Nkongo of Emmanuel's church reminded his congregation that tragedy does not always have mystical origins and encouraged support for the grieving families instead of perpetuating rumors. Official information regarding Sorelle's death remained remarkably scarce. The hospital issued only a brief statement confirming that a 29-year-old woman had been pronounced dead upon arrival following a collapse at a private event. No cause of death was specified, citing an ongoing investigation and family privacy. Local authorities were similarly reserved. A police spokesperson acknowledged being aware of the incident, but classified it as a medical emergency rather than a criminal matter, indicating no suspicion of foul play. When pressed by journalists, officials would only confirm that standard protocols for unexpected deaths were being followed. The family's decision regarding an autopsy was never publicly disclosed. In Cameroonian culture, as in many African societies, there can be resistance to post-mortem examinations due to traditional beliefs about respecting the body after death. By December 2024, 2 months after the tragedy, no conclusive findings had been released. Emmanuel, still deep in mourning, issued a statement through a family representative requesting privacy and an end to speculation. We may never know exactly why we lost our beloved Sorelle. What matters now is honoring her memory with dignity rather than endless conjecture. This absence of definitive answers left a void that continued to be filled with theories and speculation, while those closest to Sorelle focused on processing their grief rather than pursuing public explanations for the inexplicable loss that had transformed a wedding day into a funeral. The wedding gifts remained unopened, the honeymoon tickets unused. 4 months, he was rarely seen outdoors, taking leave from his job and declining most visitors. Sorelle's parents confronted the unimaginable task of burying their daughter in the same month they had celebrated her marriage. The funeral, held 1 week after the wedding, saw her interred in her second wedding dress, a request from Emmanuelle that further broke hearts. Her mother required brief hospitalization for exhaustion and grief-induced physical symptoms. Extended family members rallied around both families, establishing a rotating system of support to ensure neither household was left alone in their darkest hours. Sorelle's bridesmaids established a memorial foundation in her name, dedicated to promoting heart health awareness for young women, transforming their grief into a cause that might prevent similar tragedies. The Douala community responded with an overwhelming outpouring of sympathy that transcended typical social boundaries. Local businesses that had provided services for the wedding refused payment, with the florist instead providing arrangements for the funeral at no cost. The hotel where the reception was held established a scholarship in Sorelle's name for young women pursuing careers in finance, her chosen field. Media coverage within Cameroon was initially respectful, with major newspapers reporting the tragedy without sensationalism. However, as public interest intensified, some outlets began publishing increasingly speculative pieces about possible causes and preventability. The national television station aired a special report on sudden cardiac death in young adults, featuring interviews with medical experts who underscored the importance of comprehensive health screenings. Religious communities across Douala held prayer services for the families. Sorelle's bank closed for a half-day to allow colleagues to attend her funeral, where the CEO spoke movingly about her contributions and potential. The university she had attended planted a memorial garden, adorned with a plaque bearing her favorite quote about perseverance and joy. The story of Sorelle's tragic death crossed national borders when a guest's video of the wedding reception, ending moments before her collapse, was shared on social media. Within 72 hours, the clip had garnered millions of views across Africa, Europe, and North America. International news outlets picked up the story, with headlines emphasizing the shocking juxtaposition of a wedding day turning to tragedy. Medical journals cited the case in discussions about sudden cardiac death in young adults. Online forums became inundated with similar stories from around the world, fostering virtual communities of those who had experienced comparable losses. By January 2025, Sorelle's story had evolved into a cautionary tale discussed in both medical schools and wedding planning forums, her name known far beyond the confines of Cameroon. Sorelle's tragic narrative underscores the critical importance of health screenings prior to significant life events, particularly those involving physical and emotional stress. Cardiologists now advise that individuals planning weddings, especially those with family histories of heart conditions, consider comprehensive checkups that include EKGs and stress tests. Dr. Nadia Fouda, a preventive medicine specialist in Yaoundé, observes that wedding preparations often entail months of stress, irregular sleep patterns, and dietary changes that can aggravate underlying health conditions. Many brides and grooms neglect their health while focusing on event details, she explains. Simple preventive measures like maintaining regular sleep schedules, staying hydrated, and managing stress can be life-saving. Some hospitals in Cameroon have since introduced pre-wedding health packages that encompass cardiac screenings, blood pressure monitoring, and stress management counseling. Emmanuelle has emerged as an advocate for these services, establishing a foundation in 2025 that subsidizes cardiac screenings for engaged couples who cannot afford them. Recognizing the warning signs of cardiac distress can be the difference between life and death. Symptoms that should never be dismissed include unexplained shortness of breath, chest pain or pressure, unusual fatigue, dizziness, and irregular heartbeats. Women often experience less typical symptoms than men, including nausea, back or jaw pain, and extreme fatigue. Medical professionals emphasize that these symptoms, even when mild or intermittent, warrant immediate medical attention, particularly during periods of heightened physical or emotional stress. Family members and friends should also be educated about these warning signs, as individuals experiencing cardiac symptoms may minimize or dismiss them, especially during celebratory events. In the aftermath of Sorelle's death, event planners across Cameroon have implemented enhanced safety protocols for large celebrations. These measures include ensuring the presence of at least one individual with basic medical training, guaranteeing easy access for emergency vehicles, and having automated external defibrillators, AEDs, readily available on site. Some venues now require event organizers to provide emergency contact information and the location of the nearest hospital as part of their planning documentation. Guests with medical training are sometimes identified with subtle indicators on their name tags. Additionally, moderating alcohol consumption, ensuring adequate hydration, and providing quiet spaces where guests can rest away from noise and excitement are becoming standard practices at extended celebrations. This story serves as a poignant reminder of how precious and unpredictable life can be. If this narrative resonated with you, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to LAT True Crime Stories for more analyses that could potentially save lives. What health precautions do you personally take before major events? This story is based on the available public information. Please let's know what you think about it in the comment.